Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is Shabir Musa from the African Forum for Primary Health Care. We're really glad that you've been able to join this meeting, which is a monthly series on African policy relevant to primary health care. Today's moderator is going to be Dr. Innocent Besigye, and we're really pleased to have Professor Francis Omaswa, who's our guest. Before I hand over to Innocent, I thought I'd just share very quickly some progress that has been achieved with AfroPHC. We've had, over the last year, since we've come together to develop this idea, we've had different workshops in webinars to introduce different elements of the primary health care team in Africa. We then had a meeting in September where we tried to get to know more about team, who we are, how we work as a team together, and some of the issues that we have, both that we share and the differences. We then had a workshop on the 10th of December to celebrate UHC, but to ask specifically what are the challenges for workforce issues in UHC and PHC. So that was a very productive workshop in which we looked at these workforce issues. Unfortunately, we didn't get enough in the way of material from reports from everyone. And so we are having these series to try and unpack the issues more clearly. So the series is basically built around priority issues. And so far, we have started today looking at human resource for health issues with Professor Francis Omaswa. We are hoping to move forward next month by having something on PHC funding, in which we are getting Spark, the Strategic Purchasing Center in Africa, to be able to share some thinking around that. We also want to, in May, look at human resource and development, particularly clinical academic training, and there's going to be sharing around that. Other workshops for the rest of the year, supporting community health workers, PHC teamwork by the interprofessional collaborative in Africa. Then looking at complexities in primary health care and UHC. How do we manage the organizational and interactional complexities in this setting? In September, we're looking at quality and safety. October, rural primary health care. We may be looking at women as well, digital health in November, and so on. So we're hoping these workshops will become a productive focus for us as frontline healthcare workers to be able to unpack the issues that are important for us to understand, to share, and to be able to advocate for going forward, especially for primary health care in universal coverage initiatives across the continent of Africa. So with that, I want to thank you all for joining us. We have over 50 people with us and 250 registered. I want to hand over to Dr. Innocent Besigye. Just a quick introduction. Dr. Besigye is a family physician from Uganda working in Kampala in the Department of Family Medicine and in practice in Kampala. He also serves as an executive member of both the Wonka Wonka Africa, in supporting us and being the key person in the last Wonka Africa conference, and also on the Prima Famed Executive Committee. So he's a very important person in the primary healthcare setting, and we're really pleased. He's been really dedicated to developing the core team, and is someone that is very able to take the discussions forward. So with that, I hand over to you, Innocent. Let me just unmute you if you can unmute yourself, but go ahead, and I'll be there in the background. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Shabir. I can't start my video. I think you have to first allow me to do so. But also, on behalf of the Parliamentary Committee for this workshop, I also allow me to welcome all of the participants that have joined us. We really hope that this will be quite a fruitful workshop. You have already introduced me, so I don't have to introduce myself. But just to let members know that this will be a 2-hour activity. And the title of this workshop is Human Resources Management Issues in Primary Health Care. Again, I want to retaliate and say this is the second workshop since we had the last one last year that was basically looking at universal health coverage. And this afternoon or morning or evening, depending on where each respective participant is from, we are privileged to have amidst us our guest speaker, Professor Francis Omaswa from Uganda. Just to get a feel of who he is, currently he's the Executive Director of the African Center for Global Health and Social Transformation, which is also has its seat here in Kampala, Uganda. But he has really held quite other significant positions within the health sector. And formerly, he was the founding executive director of the Global Health Workforce Alliance, and he was also special advisor, the Director General of World Health Organization in Geneva. He also acted as a Director General for the Ministry of Health here in Uganda, and he's also the founding director for the Uganda Heart Institute, which is actually one of the centers of excellence for cardiac-related conditions seated here within the Morago Hospital. And he has really continued to offer support on helping countries understand health systems, particularly focusing on human resources for health. He will be sharing with us some practical human resources for health planning concepts and tools. And these tools were developed during his time as the executive director of the Global Health Workforce Alliance at the World Health Organization in Uganda, in Geneva. And after his presentation, we shall have a panel of experts who are really leaders in AfroPHC, who will be joining him to try and add fresh on what he will have said, looking at human resources management issues for primary health care. And we hope after that, we shall break into discussion groups to really try and bring in some new innovative ideas on how well we can really deal with this issue of human resources for health, particularly focusing on primary health care. And just to let you know, colleagues, that we are trying to get on board our Francophone friends from within Africa and outside. So tonight, for the very first time, we are privileged to have a French translator who will be doing French translation for the benefit of our brothers and sisters who are Anglophone speakers. So at this time, allow me to invite Professor Francis Omaswa to start on with his presentation. Professor Francis, you're welcome. But maybe Shabir wants to say something before Francis
sorry,
comes
let me just quickly apologize. It seems the interpreter we arranged has not pitched, so I do apologize. We thought we had him on board.
So, sorry about that.
I do apologize, but we will make better effort. Unfortunately, we've got a limited budget. I think, yes, thank you. People have just wanted your video on, so thank you, Innocent and Professor Maswa. If you don't mind, just putting a video as well so that people can see you. I think they'll feel they'll enjoy it better. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Innocent, for the introduction. And good afternoon, members of Wonka Africa. I wasn't fully aware of the extent of your group, but in my history, I didn't inform Innocent Besige that I am very, very passionate about community health. And along the way in my career, I interrupted my career as a cardiothoracic surgeon and went and served in a rural hospital in Uganda for 5 years, testing how to avail quality surgical services to rural populations. And even now, I am the chair of the community engagement strategy for the COVID response here in Uganda, and had a big role in promoting the setting up of the, I think now Innocent where you are is called family medicine. Before that it was
Yes,
community. Yeah, and I was very, very much involved in starting that MMed program. So
Thank you.
I'm at home with you, my dear friends. So now about what I'm going to say, I will share my screen now. I would like to share with you sort of where did we come from with this agenda of where am I? Whoa. This technology is giving me a headache. I want to share my slides.
If you open your slides, Prof, just open your slides, make sure it's open, and then when you go to share, you should find it. And the share is the green button that's usually on the bottom.
Okay, it is true. I have slides are open, and now I go back to
I think
Zoom.
they have too many things. Sometimes you lose it in the long list.
And then share.
Sometimes it says it PowerPoint, and then you can make it out.
Oh dear me. I've been doing this before, but now I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
I think you've circulated the slides to us. Let me just quickly see if we can't help you to share it. Prof, I've got it, so let me share it for you.
The problem is that I have moved them a bit.
Okay.
I've moved them. I'll get there in a moment.
All right, no problem.
Yeah, I think now Prof is able to share.
Yes, we see something. I think you just need to change it from slide to normal.
Now I think it is a matter of putting them into slide presentation.
If you go right to the left, I think your slide, or right to the bottom on the right-hand side next to the 100%.
Next to the 100%, yeah, correct.
Yeah, if you just click on that icon right at the bottom.
No, I think down there, so that you can go into slide presentation.
There we are.
That one?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Now you just scroll up to the top and you should be good to go.
I'm going in the wrong direction. Do you still have them?
Yes, we can see it. If you click on that slide and then start.
But with, then you click on that and then you go into slide presentation.
Okay.
There we go.
Right.
Yeah, there we
are. So that's the title. Sorry about that. That's the title which I have proposed, and I think that is what you are looking for also, about guiding principles for country health workforce management and development. And as you've said already, this will be based mainly on the work which I have been directly involved with over time. And the first message is this one. This is J.W. Lee, who was the Director General of WHO, is the one who recruited me into the Workforce Alliance as his advisor initially, and then later became the Executive Director of the Alliance. And in one of the planning meetings we held in Paris, he just blurted this out and said, "What's our job?" And then he said, it is to ensure access to a motivated, skilled, and supported health worker for every person in every village, everywhere. So that is it. And all those words are important. Motivated is important, skilled is important, supported is important. And this is the type of health worker who is going to deliver for you, the one who is well motivated, who is skilled, and who feels that the community supports him or her. And this issue of health workforce, it ended up being called the global health workforce crisis. For a long time, there was neglect. And when you were talking to donors, when you talked about health workforce, they basically told you that that is a matter for the countries, it's about salaries, we can't get involved, it's not sustainable, until there was then a big problem. And at the meetings of the World Health Assembly, at the meetings of the ministers of health of the Commonwealth, I was attending these meetings now in various capacities, and later as Director General in the Ministry of Health. There were very, very, very bad quarrels between ministers from Africa and those from developed countries, because the developed country agencies, recruitment agencies, were pitching up in hotels in Africa, recruiting health workers and taking them away without any reference to the governments who trained them. And Shabir, you are from South Africa. Your minister then, the late Shabalala, was very, very, very influential in this struggle. She was fearless and really caused a lot of problems, which eventually led to the passing of 3 resolutions in succession by the World Health Assembly on this topic without them having been in the initial agenda of the Assembly. So then many studies, Joint Learning Initiative did a report. There were meetings of the high-level forum on MDGs, so until
Hey, Francis, can I ask you to just pull your screen a little bit forward so people can see you better?
Okay, like that.
Yeah, that's good, good.
Thank you. Don't hesitate to remind me to do things right. So,
no problem, thanks.
So in the end, they decided that we needed a partnership. Just like at that time, we had the TB partnership, we had the malaria partnership, and we had all those other partnerships. Let's do a partnership on health workforce. And that is how I got appointed initially as a special advisor to the Director General with the mandate to set up the alliance, and later became the executive director of the alliance. We produced the first world report, Health World Report of 2006 on this topic. The topic was now gaining global agendas. There were champions and so on. And we created regional networks in Asia. The African one is called the African Platform on Human Resources for Health. That was around 2006 as well. And then we held, after 3 years, the first global forum on human resources for health, which was held here in Kampala, and published then the Kampala Declaration and Agenda for Global Action. Since then, there have been 3 other global forums on human resources in Bangkok, Recife, Brazil, and the last one in 2017 in Dublin. I think we are due for another one new now. And there have been so many initiatives on health workforce, task shifting, MEPI, now you have AfriHealth, where all of you are, and the commission by the Lancet, and so on. The momentum has picked up. And of course, here is one of those early studies by Sudhir Anand, and it basically just says that you need health workers if you are going to get good health indices. Full stop. And this is the crisis. In that World Health Report of 2006, it did a census of health workers. They basically were counting doctors, nurses, and midwives per 1,000 population. And look at how badly on the left Africa it was doing compared with the rest of the world. So we really were performing very badly indeed. Out of 57 countries which were classified as having critical shortages of health workers, Africa had 36 of them out of 57, more than 50%, about 60–70%. And that's the same message there. The Africa with 25% of the global disease burden and only 1.3% of the global health workforce. And this is a bad picture. It's not telling a good story. On the left is charting countries, the same slide as the last one, but put in another way. The health workforce densities in Africa between 2006 or 2005, when that study was done, and 2014, African health workforce densities have not changed. And this is mainly due to two factors: population growth and underinvestment. It's a big problem for Africa. And in some countries, it has even got worse than it was like 10, 15 years ago. So as I'm saying, the progress has been slow, although the need is growing. And the main reasons are weak leadership and governance of health workforce, low priority on health systems, and health as a social good in many African countries. We are competing with the messages from some economists who have been for years saying that investing in health is consumptive and not productive. We have struggled with that, but we've moved away from that now. I think there is now conviction and evidence that investing in health has high economic returns. So this has been a major reason for this challenge. Poor leadership, low regulation, poor management, lack of coordination, etc., just chaos and lack of interest. I'm sure you feel this where you work in your countries. And this is the Kampala Declaration and the agenda for global action. After a lot of work, we convened partners for the first time to have the first global meeting on health workers. It was held here in Kampala, and it was addressed by the UN Secretary General and, of course, the Director General of WHO. And it came out with these 6 pillars of the action which was needed. The first one is leadership. We've talked about that already. Leadership. And you people are showing leadership. I congratulate you. The second one was evidence. What do we know? Where are the health workers? Why are they where they are? What are the qualities of training? What is the regulation? Just evidence on health workers, research on health workforce. The next one was the level of training. We are not training enough up to now, and the quality of training, which links the health system to the competencies. And then retention, that is to say, after they are qualified, are they recruited? Are they happy? Are they motivated? Like I was telling you at the beginning. And then migration is a big topic. Migration, because the northern countries just have very few young people, not just for health, even for their armies. The quickest way, if you have a child who wants to become an American citizen, is to tell them to join the army, and they will get green cards very quickly. The same with Russia too, the same. They are all short of young people. So they take away health workers from Africa, you all know this, and it's a big challenge. And then low investment. So critical success factors for those who have succeeded. We did a 9-country study on this. What is those who are doing better than others? Number one, as you would expect, is political leadership, political commitment, and good governance. At best led by the head of state. And we will talk more about this. Then planning, health workforce planning, the quality of health workforce departments in ministries of health. What are they like? Who is leading them? Many of them are led by people who move from agriculture to education, maybe to finance, as personnel managers, just checking whether your file is in order, you have taken your annual leave, your salary increment has taken place, but not linking the disease burden of the country to the skill mix. That's the biggest weakness. And then, of course, the environment of information systems. And this is what we put forward as the recommendations, the foundations for a good HRH program in the country. First, it should be part of a national plan. It should be part of the national development plan. Countries have got 3-year plans, 5-year plans. Health workforce should be part of that. And there should also be health sector investment plans. Health workforce should be part of that. And then there should be HRH plans, which are planned over a long time. Actions are taken shorter periods and are reviewed regularly with quality assurance. Quality assurance is very important indeed with the resources that are available, fit into the budget. There is this CCF, country coordination framework. I'll come to talk about that later, but it's a very important tool to use in workforce management in the countries. So I gave you the foundation. These are the pillars: multi-sector action and political support. And the multi-sector calls for people like us, we the professionals, civil society organizations like the platform and others, political movements, parliaments, the private sector. They all need to be brought together to form a workforce planning committee in the country across sectors, and of course fit into the national strategic plan for health. With all these things, health information systems, observatories, and reporting, annual meetings on health workforce, and using the information generated to improve the performance of the national HRH plan. And then it would be good to have also regional links. Maybe like SADC can meet annually, WAHO should be meeting to discuss these issues. And we need advocates from civil society and to manage effectively at the ministries of health and in the country. I told you about health workforce departments, which are led by people who are trained in health workforce, people who know how to link the disease burden to the skill mix which is needed in the country. And we need strong professional associations all round to be ensuring that ethical practice is taking place. They are advocates for better training, for retention and service standards, etc., etc. And this committee, I've talked to you about this already since we are moving quickly. This HRH National Committee should have all key stakeholders in it, including ministries of finance, education, labor, and so on. And the WHO issued what is called country coordination and facilitation. If you Google that name, country coordination and facilitation, at the Global Workforce Alliance, you will get a beautiful document which describes to you the process for creating all this in the country. I couldn't show it. I tell you to look for it. And when it is working well, then we will produce one comprehensive, costed, and evidence-based national plan for the country, with a financing plan, with the building of capacity of all stakeholders, CSOs, the ministries, and so on, and implementation over a long time together with monitoring and evaluation. So those are really the principles which you would use to make an effective HRH program in a country. Now, we move on now to frameworks. You asked me to talk about frameworks. So let's start on frameworks. So the first message of this framework is that health workforce skills are diverse and there are many, and you need all of them. And they work in a mutually supportive environment. Nurses supporting doctors, pharmacists supporting nurses, etc., etc. And it is like a jigsaw. When one piece is missing, the jigsaw is incomplete. So they should be working together, not fighting each other, not camped, as someone called them, tribes, and so on. And you find this sometimes as a big problem So you bring up your health workforce knowing that they are mutually supportive of each other, the roles of each are clear, and they work together as one unified, strong team. And this is from that World Health Report of 2006. You put them into 3 buckets: entry, then service, the one on the right, and exit. And this is a planning tool which you use to make sure that you have available, competent, and responsive health workforce, which I think they should have said supported. The supported message had not yet come in there. And then this is another one, which basically tells you to link education to health systems. This is a big struggle in every country. You find that the trainees are not training in a natural health system. They are training in artificial circumstances, so that when they graduate, they have to be trained again how to work in the real world. So the education system should be tied inseparably with the health system, so that the graduates, when they come out, know how to get around, and even the skills that they need as they train should be clear to them during training, not finding that someone taught you from a textbook, or now with IT, and you are learning injection with syringes for nurses and so on and so on. So that is this is a very big point indeed. And there are different levels and skill needs. So they are at the bottom, you have those community health workers, mid-level health workers, allied health workers, and so on. And then they go up district, regional, national, and super specialists, generalists, and so on. And you need all of them, like I told you before. There is that jigsaw, and you must train them so that your plan has enough and well-calculated needs at each level. And it also take care of their governance, their agenda, make sure the budget and so on. We've talked about that already, but you know you need all this. Then this one, it is small. I don't know whether you can see it properly, but it is called the WHO Action Framework. And it is the same message. This one was made, I gave the grant then as Executive Director of Workforce Alliance to the WHO head office of HRH. They engaged a consultant. It was IntraHealth, I think, at that time. And we produced this together. What it basically is telling us is the same thing, like we talked about the country coordination and facilitation. You need stakeholders from different sectors, and you bring them together, and you have analyzed your skill gaps or skill needs, and you have a national plan which you implement together with others. The key message is that health alone cannot develop and implement health workforce plans which work. So you need multi-sector. And this one, we also made it together at that time. And the message here is that you define your health needs, what are your competencies. Out of that, you develop a basic package of services by level, community level, health centers, district hospitals, national referral hospitals, etc., etc. So what services are to be provided, what skills are needed, how many people are needed with the skills. And then you have to train them and provide the services as near as possible to the clients. And you need technical competence, you need political support, and you need resources. So that's a framework which we used quite a bit at that time to make the recommendations to countries. And I think that is my last slide. So in summary, I've given you some principles which you can use in national planning, And then I have given you also some frameworks for your consideration. In your own link, which you showed me, there are hundreds of frameworks, but to me, these are the key ones which are available, and you can consider improving upon them as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Francis, for this very insightful presentation. It is really simple, easy to understand, and I think it will guide many of us, the participants here, who are struggling to improve the health workforce, particularly for primary health care. And of course, Prof, your support for family medicine and community health is really undeniable. So, and we are really very grateful for that. For now, we shall have our panel discussion coming into operation. I know some of our colleagues who are supposed to be forming the panel are already around. I know Joseph Othigiti is here. I don't know whether Prof. Shabir can actually get the panelists.
Yes, I'm
on board,
busy.
and
I
then
think Joseph Tegiti, I can allow him to speak.
Yes.
I think what we can do is we can get responses if anybody in the audience as well would like to make some comments. I also see Prosper Tumisime there, although I think he might have left. Just
so
anyone who would
maybe
like to make some comments or reflections, they can pick up their hand and we'll allow them to speak.
I think that's wonderful, a wonderful idea. If there's anybody from the participants who do want to make comments, please let them raise their hands, and then we proceed accordingly as the panel constitutes.
Perhaps just to get going while people think about it, I'm going to just mention to Prof. Omaswa about some of the work that's been happening and some of the needs to the audience as well. As the African Forum for Primary Health Care, bringing together family doctors, nurses, clinical officers, community health workers, and any other and all other of the multidisciplinary team involved that we think in primary health care are important. We're trying to bring them together. What we have been trying to do, and I think really appreciate your comment that we're trying to act with some leadership across Africa, so to provide some Pan-African leadership. We're trying strongly to reach out to stakeholders, but importantly, in this process, we want to get ourselves, past the turf wars that Prof has mentioned, into a better way of working together at a Pan-African level, so that when we talk to others beyond ourselves, we don't seem like we are not clear together of what we want. And in doing that, some of the questions is going to be, if we are going to be part of national plans or across the continent plans, we need to come with very clear ideas on what exactly do we feel are important, especially from primary health care, because many of these plans are developed more for the whole country, all the health services. And, people say we love primary health care, but when they eventually are talking the, human resource plans, they're thinking specialties and not primary health care. And this is something that we need to be part of that and say, no, you have to talk primary care, a clear document or section that says what they're going to do. And then we need to be clear, what do we want you to include in that? So this discussion, the next few workshops, is to try and clarify that. We also need to do it without just saying we want this and we want that, but to actually come with the evidence, that supports. And perhaps we don't have the evidence. We're going to have to think about making the evidence so that we can say, this kind of configuration of team makes a difference. This poorly paid community health workers, volunteer community health workers are not as good as those who are formally part of the health system. And I think those are all the different kinds of things, debates. But we have to not be trying to pitch for doctors who saying, but give us all the doctors, all the benefits. So the same with nurses. And I think that is very important for us in this forum. I don't know what you think, Professor Maswa. Any thoughts on that before I just let others speak? I see 2 hands up already.
Well, you are right. The gap has been that people like us, like you and me, we know a lot. We have a lot of capabilities, but we are absent in the dialogue. And the way forward I would suggest for you, generate evidence and then use this evidence for advocacy. And if you have good information, you will not be ignored, which changes the way in which people live. So that triangle, I talked about a triangle in the Hague meeting. You are there in that triangle as the knowledge generators, and you are directly involved. You are very close to the people. What do they need? How can you help them? How can they be helped? And to me, primary health care, integrated people-centered primary health care is the health system of the future. In a wellness-based health system. So you are in the right place, just move, and people will listen to you. If you have something to market, you will be heard, and don't give up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think we have 3 hands up.
Yes, good. You've got the hand on them. Go for it.
Yeah, I know.
Are you able to allow them to talk, Innocent? Sorry, do you want me to allow them to talk?
Yeah, I can. I have allowed them to talk. So can.
All right, you manage that, please. Thanks.
Okay.
I think, Joseph, you're ready?
Yes, I am.
Perhaps introduce yourself briefly, and then you can pitch a question or comment, and we can just have a chat.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Shabil. Thank you for your presentation, Professor Omaswa. My name is Dr. Joseph Thigiti. I'm from Kenya. I'm a senior lecturer with Kenyatta University and the head of family medicine training for Kenyatta University. I was requested to join this meeting by one of my colleagues called Dr. Joy Mugambi, since she was held elsewhere. It is one of the areas that is pretty important in relation to the results anticipated in primary health care. It is not possible to achieve the expected results in primary health care without addressing one of the major building blocks, which is the human resource for health. Now, this is one area which, in my view, its performance in primary health care especially has lagged largely behind because to a large extent, the understanding of primary health care and how it is supposed to be delivered to the citizens has always been an issue, largely because the training programs that do support the output for health workers is largely disease-centric. So much as we have a severe crisis shortage of health workforce in most of the African countries, the health workers that exist, their performance is largely disease-centric. This is to an extent driven by the training programs, and two, the investments in the health workforce is largely directed to areas that largely are interested in diseases. This will remain a serious burden even now when we talk about UHC, until we reach a situation where there is adequate orientation of the few health workforce about primary health care. The outputs expected in primary health care will largely lag behind until there is a deliberate effort to train health workforce, and those who are already trained in as primary health care providers be adequately orientated on what it means to offer people-centered health care delivery. And until that is done, this will remain a serious challenge. Now, as expected, because of the shortages that we have in this region, it is foreseen that most of the African countries would require teamwork to be able to deliver people-centric healthcare. The trainings programs in most of the African countries have not had multidisciplinary training programs running. And if they are there, when it comes to the implementation at service delivery level, there is parallel activities without so much team functioning, and which will become and is currently a major challenge in anticipating the results expected in primary health care. So in looking at the results that we are hoping for in primary health care that relate to access, to coverage, to quality of care and the quality of service deliveries, which are the performance indicators, we will need an almost reorientation of the teams on the governance, how to govern the teams to be able to work in cohort to the anticipated outcomes. That is my suggestions and some input in relation to Professor Omaswa's presentation. I trust this discussion is going to open up, and we can continue with this discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sigiti, for that very important input. I think now we can hear from Serima, and I think, Serima, you are able to speak. I allowed you to talk. Thank you. Serima, are you with us?
Who's Taryn Lass? Hello?
Hello, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay. I have something very important that I'd like to say, is that it must not be so complicated. I have been running a primary health team in the townships since 2002. And I have learned that the way it's been done in other parts of our country and the way it's being taught was totally inappropriate. And we have a methodology. Now, we have an organization called Community Action, which was started in the beginning to impact just HIV, AIDS, and TB. And we realized that you cannot teach about HIV and TB in isolation. You have to have a complete program of primary health training in every single home in any area which you choose. We chose 2 townships. One was Alexandra Township, and the other, we did a pilot in both, in Soweto. And we learned so much. I started it in 2002. And we discovered that it has to be appropriate to the standard of education of the majority of people in that township. Now, South Africa, I don't know what the standards of education is in other countries. South Africa, unfortunately, has turned out to be a great disappointment because the disadvantaged people, have not had good education. So it's very difficult to try and deal with the whole of Africa. One has to adapt to suit one's own situation. And our situation is that the people living in disadvantaged areas in South Africa have had very, very poor education. They know nothing about hygiene. They know nothing about the body. And I won't go into that detail. I'll go into detail with what we discovered about training. Now, first of all,
Selma, sorry, before you continue, I just want to caution on time.
Yes.
There's a growing list of people. If you don't mind keeping it short. Thanks.
Okay. So you want to be quick. All I can tell you
about 2 minutes. If you could just wrap it up in 2 minutes.
Okay. We've been running a primary health. It's called a street-based primary health care model. And I have results, which I can share with you another time. And I can tell you that the most important thing is it has to be appropriate for the level of education of the CHWs, and must not try and use nurses. Nurses are educated way beyond, and they're not suitable for training. We used community people for training, whom we trained from a handbook that we prepared in conjunction with the people in the community. And being street-based is terribly important because you go from each CHW gets a certain number of households, and they get a handbook, and they get training no more than 12, at the most 14, in a training group. And at another time, I can tell you about all the other trainings that have been done in our country, which have failed because they talk to large groups and nobody knows what they've integrated, understood, or therefore can go into the community and teach. So it's too much.
Thank you very much, Selma. I know it's actually quite an important subject, and I think you've shared some very important insights. If I can just say that in the group discussions, you'll have a chance. So for others who are coming with questions, you will have a chance to share more. So this is not the end of it. I think just keep your points brief. We also, Selma, are going to have a session just on community health workers in about 3 months' time, which I think will be another opportunity to bring up the issues. So thanks. Over to you, Innocent.
Okay.
Innocent might have had a challenge with his connection. Perhaps I'll continue. Let's go to...
Came in.
Are you there? Okay, good, good. Sorry, you cut off. Are you there, Innocent? All right.
Yes, I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Now we hear you now. I think you had a slight challenge.
So I think we can now hear from Dr. Benedette. I think she raised the hand some time back.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give in my 2 words. I appreciate the fact that I am Bernadette. I am from originally from Cameroon. I'm resident in Germany. I am the founder of and chairperson of the Pan-African Health System. And over the past years, I've been roaming around, walking around the health system strengthening, and the aspect of generating evidence and using evidence for advocacy, as has been spoken by Professor Omaswa, is for me very important, especially now that we are moving into we are within the digitalization of the health system, and the community worker is going to be at the center of that. But it is not going to be the community health worker the way we are using them now. It means we have to invest and try to identify what skills and what competencies and how are we going to train the future community health worker to be part of the health workforce and not volunteering. So I really appreciate this, and since I gather that in the next within the next 3 months there's going to be a focus on the community health worker, we are going to really appreciate that. And on the other hand, this aspect of us not taking the mistakes from the analog sector into the digital world, because we have already some discrepancies between the urban and rural cities, and especially trying to find out how can we uplift those discrepancies and those biases within the digital sector. It means also we have to go through an evidence-based manner. We have to use implementation strategies that might help to reduce all those biases. And that is why I think the community health worker is going to play a role in strengthening the primary care, healthcare within our continent. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Benedette. I think really I can't agree with you more. The role of the community health worker or the PHC team is really quite paramount. Dr. Prosper. Dr. Prosper, can you unmute yourself, please, and then you make your contribution? Thank you. Dr. Prosper, are you there?
You are unmuted, Prosper. Perhaps we can move on and give Prosper a chance.
I think in the interest of time, let's move on. And we can hear from Aditya. Aditya, can you unmute yourself, please? Go on. Yes.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you well.
Thank you very much. It's a very valuable discussion. And I think that a primary healthcare section is a very important for overall healthcare industries. When we want to achieving a maximum level of health for a country, then we have to focus mainly on the PSC. I think that for the PSC development, primary healthcare development, or family level care development, we need to approach the whole community, and it is divided into the segment with, you know. Hello.
Yeah, we can still hear you. Yes, please go on. Baro, are you still there?
Aditya is a community health nurse from India. I think he might have finished his point, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. I don't know whether Prosper is back. Dr. Prosper, are you back? He seems he's not yet back. So let's see here Alice's contribution. Alice, please go on and mute yourself and make your comment, please.
Hello, you can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, please. So, like I've indicated on the chat, I'm Alice Hazemba. I'm connecting from Zambia. I work for the University of Zambia in the School of Public Health. I have a background in maternal newborn child health because I trained as a nurse. So what my contribution is dependent on the fact that as a country, although I'm not speaking as a spokesperson for the country, but I want to share the fact that I have worked in, my research work has really tried to focus the attention at the community level. And we have a lot of community volunteers that we work with in the different areas of maternal newborn child health. And the university, my school has in the recent past introduced programs to try and support the community mix in terms of workforce mix, because I got that very well from Professor's presentation. We are trying to train undergraduates in public health and diploma in public health, as well as bachelors in health promotion. Why are we doing this? Because we want to offload as much as possible the workforce that will be able to work at the lowest level of the community without having to rely largely on the health centers. So my question then is, yes, I heard a comment relating to the fact that we also have a brain drain where we train, but our workforce disappears within our vicinity. So how can the university or my school be able to help the government to try and strengthen community linkages by, as much as possible, train people that will stay in those communities, because by doing so, that's the only way we can improve health outcomes at community level. Really, this presentation was very helpful, but I think we need also to be helped on how we can help the government to retain the community health workforce as much as possible, although I know it has to deal with budget.
Yeah, thank you, Alice. I don't know whether Prosper is back. Dr. Prosper, are you? Can you hear us?
I think he might be having challenges. Perhaps we can move on and to the pity. We would have liked his comments.
So I don't know, is Lillian around? Because she was supposed to be part of our panelists, I don't know.
Yeah, I've been looking through. I think most of the panelists we had expected have actually been through, and I think there have been people who've spoken. Perhaps we can move into group discussion.
So I think now we can have. I am actually thinking that there could be any other person in the audience who may. We have some questions in the chat. Maybe if we can have in the Q&A.
Yeah.
If we can.
So I see some
Q&A. A minute or two.
Sorry, Inisat, I see some Q&As. I think some people have just said thank you. Appreciate that. Professor Amaswa, some people would like to get the presentation. If you don't mind sharing it with us, we'll put it up on the website. Then there's a question from, I think, from Bilkis Khan about NGOs willing to work in Pakistan. I think we can leave it to people to respond to that. Charles Michello, can you read the questions?
Yes, I'm reading them.
Innocent, if you want to, you can go through them and then just see how you want to respond so that you can manage it. Innocent, do you want me to read it or you can go through it?
I think there is two questions which I think may need an answer. And I think one question is from Eileen Agodi, and the question goes, are there any personal development plans, performance coaching development initiatives that have been successfully implemented? And I think these plans should be really oriented to PHC. That's what I think. And if so, what are some of the successes? And if not, what's the reason for this?
But Professor Maswa, you could respond to that if you have
whether
any.
The question is clear for Prof to
just your
answer.
Thoughts around it, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, all these questions, I see Professor Michello also has a question which is around the same. I think it was also the same issue which was raised by Selma and many others. And the question from Alice, how can the university help? And so on. So my advice to your group is that since most of you are in academia, let's get the curricula of your family medicine or whichever group, by whatever name it goes, to put emphasis on community health and actually to make sure that your students rotate there, make sure that you are practicing there in the communities. And if the universities are able to do that, then they should also be using that opportunity to generate evidence, to generate information through research and so on. And this is the information you will now take to the ministries of health, you take to the parliaments, you find your ways of advocacy there. Because what we all agree on is that community level interventions are by far the most important investments in terms of return. But we are not doing it. Why are we not doing it? We are not doing it because the drama of delivering health, convulsing children and road traffic accidents and so on overshadows the effort on health promotion and community health. The attention and the money goes to those areas, yet in fact, you would save more money, make more money if you invested in community health. So how can we get that message round? The answer is through the university is actually demonstrating the importance of community health, generating evidence from there, and using that for advocacy. I also, as I conclude, would like to invite you. We at ACHEST here, we publish the Africa Health Journal. I think it does not, there is an online version of it, and we've been writing regularly on community health. And we also have a blog on what is called African Health Systems Governance Network. If you go to the ACHEST website, you will find there governance discussions, and these topics are all discussed there. So the message really is translate your beliefs and your conviction into evidence and advocate for that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prof. But I think we have just a couple of minutes, and I think we needed to also highlight this question, which I will just read in summary. And in most cases, the African region has been accused of having well-documented plans and policies, but the implementation, I think, is the problem. How can you address this challenge? Because I think this is a reality, and I think, Prof, with your experience, if you can shed light on that, it will be important for the participants.
Yeah, it is called the implementation gap. It is a big embarrassment if you take meetings which ministers attend, they pass resolutions, they go back home, nothing happens. Even national plans, as you say, they are made, but they are not implemented. The problem is governance of health systems. That's one. The other problem is lack of demand from the population. They allow things to go bad, and you know it is wrong, and you just shrug your shoulders, say, what can I do? I go and find another solution. So until we are able to increase population demand for quality care, we are going just to depend on the goodwill of politicians and the health services managers. But also, most of you are academic people. Some of you should move into administration, find ways of becoming a director general. That's what happened to me, or becoming a commissioner or something in the Ministry of Health, and translate what you believe in into action. We want our best people also in the admin side. The health workforce departments, for example, in ministries of health, I told you, are led by personnel officers, not by health professionals. So all this is a long journey which we have to take forward, but I'm glad that you people are talking. I think that's the beginning of everything. You are talking, and some of you will find your ways into the ministries of health. Some of you will find your ways maybe into UN agencies. You will find your ways somewhere and translate this into action, one by one. But you have to aim high and not give up, and be evidence-based, and also know how to inform and inspire, not to name and shame those people whom you want to influence. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. I think no other person could have done this better than you with your vast experience. It's unfortunate that we have missed the contribution from Dr. Prosper, who also has a wide experience working WHO Afro-African region. But nevertheless, next time. I think, Shabil, next on the agenda, we are going to
just
break
a quick
into
one. I think there's a French question, and we do apologize for the fact that our French translator ditched us. But Henry Mundongo, I think, provided a question. It's actually more a comment. Perhaps we could just read it. I'll also post it in the group. But he says that he asked a question: what modes of communication should be implemented in first level care, I assume primary care, to improve exchange between the various professional categories? And I think his question is that there's a lot of compartmentalization or fragmentation between nurse, doctor, clinical officer, community health worker, and that's a major problem. And his observation is that communication in hospitals are also compartmentalized, and I think that's a very important comment. I've just translated it and stuck it on the chat. Any comments about that, Prof. Omaswa, just quickly on that, and then we can close up and go to the groups.
Right now here in Uganda, we are in the middle of getting refined our strategy for COVID, for integrated people-centered primary health care, which will put COVID beside malaria, beside TB, beside WASH, and so on, but all of them implemented by one a group of community health workers. There is what is called the 3 1s in planning for health systems. One plan, be it at national level, at district level, or community level. And then one implementation mechanism, which ensures that all the players are talking around the same table, and one monitoring mechanism. So you would find, therefore, that there are resources which are there going to the communities for malaria, for WASH, for TB, but they are being delivered by different entities to the same people. So we should be aiming for that integrated people-centered care using the 3 1s approach. And it needs very strong leadership by the government. the district health officer or whoever, by whatever title they are called, must be able to call order and say, if you want to work here, you work through our plan or go away. And it is only countries who have been able to do that that are able to make the progress that we all yearn for and are able to achieve MDGs. They are making good progress towards SDGs and so on. So we should encourage our leaders to become stronger leaders than they are and point these things out to them in writing. Every year, your units should be able to write a report to the Minister of Health or to the Permanent Secretary or Director General, say during this year, these are the issues which we have found, these are the solutions which we are recommending, over to you. And you come back again next year, if they are not acted upon, one day they will be acted upon. And maybe one day someone will ask you to become the Director General or the Permanent Secretary. That's how it happened to me. I didn't apply for the jobs. They just say, you come and do what you say it works. And they've seen you also being effective where you are, one by one, and it will happen. And it's a long journey.
Very sage advice, I must say.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
Prof.
we miss Prosper. He was one of my team in the Ministry of Health in Uganda. He was in the planning department, and he's the one who made the community health program for us when we made our first plan in the year 2000. We miss him, but
yeah, we surely missed him. So
yeah.
So I don't know, Prof, whether you'll be able to join us to keep along with us for the group discussions.
Unfortunately, I have to go now. Actually, people are waiting for me from FET for another meeting.
Yeah, but we are really very grateful for the time commitment, and I think I will request Professor Shabir to just give a vote of thanks before you leave the meeting as we proceed for the group discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much on behalf of all those who have attended. We really appreciate you spending time. I know that there are many others who'd like to share the platform with you and say something, and we'll leave that to the group discussion. But Professor Maswa, I think you're a great example to all of us as ordinary healthcare workers sitting on the front line who can be clear, evidence-based, and like you say, make a difference in a small space. And perhaps one of these days, somebody may knock on your door and say, come and do it on a bigger scale. And I think that's really great advice to each one of us. Often we think that we can't make a difference, that we get very cynical. And I think that we don't pursue ideals. We tend to just bail at the lot. You've held on to your beliefs, and I think shaped them by experiencing life in the real circumstance in a rural community. So I think you are a great mentor, and we hope that you'll constantly be available for us to touch base with and to get your support in any forum that you are in, to say, you guys go look at what these guys are doing. And I think all the people in this room need to feel the importance of what they're doing. So thank you. We are going to, I think, perhaps Prof. Maswa, thank you. And if you need to leave, please, we excuse you. Thank you for the time you have spent with us. We are going to move into, I know that people have come to see Prof. Maswa, to listen to him. But I think that what we really need is for you to join us in the next part of the series. Thank you, Prof. Maswa.